It's raids, Eternal Palace, Radiance of Azshara. Okay, sounds good. Let me go ahead and invite everybody, then we'll go ahead and we'll start this up. So what did you guys think about that boss? I'm actually curious. Okay, let's see. You waking up early tomorrow for the raid? Yeah, I am. I'm absolutely waking up early. Okay, let's go this way. Yeah, it's cool. I like the boss too. I wish that Blizzard would do more things like that. It seems like oftentimes like they're kind of afraid of doing anything that's like really kind of crazy because they don't want people to. I don't even know like really what it is. They don't want to overwhelm people or some kind of bullshit. But I do hope that they actually do. Oh shit! Did we invite too many people? All right, Burke. Sorry, we're not gonna have a spot for you. Okay, good. Let me go ahead and set people for tank and DPS. Okay, McConnell, you're gonna tank. Let's see, McConnell. What did you think of the boss?
It's a boss. I don't really care.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that's basically the way that a lot of people feel, I'm pretty sure. But in terms of bosses, I think that it's better than most. In terms of the aesthetics of the boss. Alright, Radiance of Azshara.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Fatboss TV. Today we're looking at the third boss in the Eternal Palace with the Radiance of Azshara encounter. This two-phase fight takes place on a massive ring-shaped platform. Mechanically, the fight is very similar to Wrath of Azshara, the boss from the Legion 5-man Eye of Azshara.
Hey, again guys, hey, again, you don't use up your good ideas. If you have one good idea, do it again. If you have a really, really good idea, do it again after that again. Accrues go DPS, don't go tank. Yeah, it's just that fucking simple.
Mechanics, as the waters surrounding the platform deal massive ticking damage, killing you pretty quickly if you fail. Let's start off by explaining phase 1. So for everyone to watch out for is the tornadoes. These spawn throughout this phase very frequently and are the most annoying thing in the encounter to deal with. The initial spawn location deals damage if you're stood within it, and a few seconds later the tornado will spiral out from that location until it despawns a little while later.
That's easy.
Because of the way these move away from where they spawn, you can easily counter them by waiting for them to spiral away and then move into their initial spawn location. The only issue is that they spawn so frequently that you'll have to move almost constantly to pull it off, especially...
So this is exactly the same as the boss in King's Rest. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is pretty much it. Am I wrong? I think that I am. Okay, we have to get one more healer. Somebody else dropped.
If you stack the entire raid.
Yeah, that's good.
Which might work for some classes, but for casters, it's not great. You can, however, spread around the entire platform to generally spread the tornadoes out, and this is what we did for the most part, and it seemed to work well.
Alright.
You do need to be careful not to spread too far from the raid because of two other mechanics. First is Unshackled Power. This is an unavoidable burst of damage to the entire raid, and this happens a lot, and is the main source of incoming damage that healers need to deal with. Second is Arcane Bomb.
Easy.
This debuff is applied to 3 members of the raid. When it times out, it will deal a burst of damage to all players in the targeting circle, stunning them for 6 seconds. This is dispellable, and when it is dispelled, it will just remain in its location, which if dispelled in a really poor place, can completely cut people off. So ideally when the debuffs come out, the debuff players should move towards the back of the platform or any area that isn't overly populated and then be dispelled. Lastly to mention for this phase is the tank debuff Tide Fist. This is a 2-second cast that deals a burst of physical damage and increases your physical damage taken by 200% for 20 seconds. So
I love how like Blizzard, this happened in Wrath. Blizzard got this idea in their head that every single boss needed a tank swap mechanic. And so every single one now has the exact same thing. There is some sort of an ability that casts onto the tank, and the other tank takes taunts off of the first tank because the first tank is taking a lot of damage. That's exactly how it is. It's so fucking annoying. They do the same shit every time. I actually am getting kind of bored of that. It seems like, I mean, why don't we have fights with 3 tanks or 1 tank? It makes things more exciting. Why don't we have a fight with 4 tanks? You know, make things a little bit more exciting and even more so, right? It's like every single fight is supposed to be done with 2 tanks. I think they're not thinking outside of the box enough. For 25 tanks? Hey. Why not?
all you need to do is very simple, just taunt off each other after a single stack.
Yeah, it's simple.
After you've dealt with all of that for so long and the boss reaches 90% mana or so, he'll begin to cast School Trap. These traps create roadblocks on the platform. Moving into one of the circles will destroy it, but it'll also spawn a tornado. Shortly after the traps are spawned and the boss reaches 100% mana, he'll go dormant and take 99% less damage. This is the start of phase 2. Immediately you're hit with a storm which reduces your vision and deals ever-increasing ticking damage.
Your goal here is to find the Eye of the Storm and kill the Storm Wraith within it.
Yeah, this is actually badass. I like this a lot.
It has multiple set spawn locations, but typically it appears that it will try and spawn as far away from the majority of your raid as it can.
Okay.
When running towards him, you'll want to only remove a single trap per wall. Any more than that, and people are likely to get caught out or just blocked further by tornadoes.
This seems pretty easy so far.
You'll no longer take the storm damage.
So this is exactly like the Kill Jaden thing, where he goes into the darkness phase and you have to run to where Illidan is. Except for instead of running to where Illidan is and then going somewhere else, you just stay there.
But your vision will still be limited. The Wraith needs to be interrupted when his focus power is cast. This simply just increases his damage by 500% if it goes through. Aside that, he'll cast Gale Buffet.
Why even have
burst
that?
Of damage and knocks back your entire raid. Ideally, you'll want to position yourself so you're not knocked into the waters around the platform.
Okay.
If you move the ad to one side of the storm and the raid stacks directly behind it, you'll remain within the eye while being knocked back, which prevents you from taking a shitload of damage from the storm. Within the eye, there's also Stormlings that will continue to spawn throughout the phase. These will just deal damage to random players and for the most part can just be ignored and cleaved down.
This is a joke. This is another joke fight.
Continue to spawn throughout phase 2. You'll want to dispel these around the edges of the storm, ideally in locations where players are not going to be knocked into.
Okay.
Once the Storm Wraith is dead, the boss will re-enter phase 1 again, and from there, the fight just simply repeats. And that wraps up the boss. But with all of our boss previews, what do we think?
Yeah, it's not a terrible encounter. It's very simple, and for the most part, the mechanics are pretty self-explanatory, which works well on a boss that's early in the
Thank God.
Some people have commented on the fight saying
this
it's
is
a bit
good.
Easy for Blizzard to copy and paste a 5-man boss, which I can understand.
What do you mean? Copy and paste a 5-man boss? Like, they've been doing that forever. It's not a big deal. Like, I'm okay with that. That's okay. Look at Dragon Soul. Like, most of the bosses in Dragon Soul were copy-pasted to begin with. Look at this. Morchok, copy-paste. Zanaz, copy-paste. Yorsaj, copy-paste. Hagara, copy-paste. Like, all of the mobs were just, like, random NPCs. Nobody gave a shit to begin with. It's not a big deal. So, yeah, I think this boss is really easy.
But, you know, you could say that it's like a nice little callback, or maybe you've just expanding upon that boss.
And he's also really big, which makes the boss fight better.
You've got the arcane bombs, which, in all fairness, strangely enough, the arcane bombs in the 5-man were way easier to read than the arcane bombs in the raid, because the raid has this weird little rune system as it like kind of ticks up, and you have to look.
I love it. I love it whenever Blizzard uses visibility as a difficulty. Like, oh, you can't see the mechanic that well. I actually fucking hate that, dude. Like, the idea that you shouldn't be able, like, you should know what's going on. I hate it whenever the being able to notice if something is happening or not is part of the difficulty. I just feel like that's really, really cheap gameplay.
It to know when it's going to explode. Whereas the one from the 5-man is just a falling bomb. It's very obvious how it works.
Yeah.
Going on to this version of the fight, there are a couple of aspects of the fight that are questionable. Some of the school trap walls had gaps where your character could just kind of move straight through them.
Yeah.
It seemed like on the normal mode test, which we did very, very recently, they kind of fixed that a little bit.
Easy.
Not entirely sure, but if
easy
you can
game.
Just get around it without having to deal with the mechanic at all. That seems like why is the mechanic there in the first place?
Yep.
So hopefully they fix that up. And secondly is the tornadoes. This entire fight, pretty much, apart from the phase 2, is just tornadoes, tornadoes, tornadoes. It's all you have to focus on. It honestly feels that the fight might be improved if they maybe reduced the amount of tornadoes that spawned, but maybe gave you one other thing to deal with. Like, you remember in the 5-man where you had to stack up and spread the damage of that ability, maybe they could add that back. Basically,
that's a really good point.
I actually like whenever boss fights are simple. I'll be honest, I do, because it's not, you don't have to worry about it a lot. The players don't have to learn a bunch of shit. Like, obviously, to a high-end raider, this is going to be something that, like, oh, well, we want it to be more complex. But for me, personally, I want to just have simple boss fights that are easily understood. And it's not even for me, right? I don't care. I can figure out a complex boss fight. I did Siegecraft on Mythic, etc., right? It's that for the average player, I don't think that's really good for them. You know, it's just way too complex. Yeah, I mean, I'd be okay with it if they had a more complex, like, personally, but I don't think they're good for the game.
Why isn't that there?
I don't know. Why didn't they just give us the 5-man version of the fight? Because honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, I actually prefer the 5-man version of the fight over this one. You know, you've got the whole idea where you slowly move around the actual platform, making use of the entire space. On this, you sit on one side and deal with the tornadoes. You just dodge, dodge, dodge. And if you're in a super large raid size, you can just split it in two. Half the raid on one side and the other raid on the other. And then on average, you're less likely to get more tornadoes. But yeah, it feels like there's less things going on in this raid version of a boss than there was in the 5-man. And I'm not even talking about like 5-man Mythic 20 or anything like that. Just 5-man, you know, standard Mythic Plus.
Okay, so that's basically what the boss fight is. Somebody says that's the type of thinking that ruined retail in the first place. No, it's not. It's the opposite. The problem is Blizzard tried to make the boss fights too complex because they wanted to have the game scale with add-ons, and they wanted to make the difficulty in raids actually doing the raids. The fact is, in classic WoW, whenever the raids were easier, they were more accessible to more people. You didn't need the multiple different difficulties because you didn't have turbo nodes with 18 different add-ons and 76 different weak auras trying to do one boss super easy, and they basically make it like LFR. No, the fact is that Blizzard ruined their game by trying to make it too hard and appeal to people that are just like super hardcore. Like, that's why Cataclysm was fucking garbage, is because the raids were too hard. You went from ICC, where the mechanics were like 2 things, and then you go into fucking BWD, and there's 8 different mechanics you have to deal with, and people stopped playing the game because it was too hard for them. Like, look, I know everybody in here thinks that they're really good at the game, but even if you are good at the game, you're not the majority. BWD was hard. Compared to ICC, mechanic-wise, yeah, it was. Like, absolutely. Neckbeard's on suicide watch? Well, it's because they think that they're like, they're just stupid. They don't realize, like, how bad that is for the game, for them to add 15 different mechanics for one boss. It's insane. Majority into heroic LFR and farm mounts, hello? Yeah, exactly. And that's why we have all these different difficulties now, is because they're like, oh, well, everybody has their own different difficulty, and nothing matters. Blizzard should have never tried to cater to hardcore players that much. It was a mistake. Why play a game with no difficulty? It's a matter of degree, not a matter of no difficulty or all difficulty. Okay, let's go to the next one.